Good morning. We are extremely pleased that you are here. It is good to come together for the purpose of co-creating. Do you agree?
Yes.
Co-creating at its best, really. You are knowing what you are wanting. You've been listening to us for a while. You know everything we know. You know you are the creator of your own experience, and that you are constantly creating the new and improved version of you, and that new and improved version of you exists vibrationally before it manifests, as does everything. The thought precedes the manifestation. So thought that is considered for quite a while, allowing the law of attraction to respond to its non-resisted nature, is what causes creation. So if you have an idea of something you want, but you doubt it, you're hindering the manifestation of it. If you have something that you want, but you expect it and are looking forward to it, then you don't hinder, and it happens quickly. Often we start these gatherings by asking, do you know what you want, and are you happy about the contrast that helped you to identify what you want? And many of you want to say yes to that because you think it's what we want you to say. But you don't really mean it, because you have desires that you've had in place for a while that have not manifested, and frankly, you're weary of them. You worry that you're doing something wrong, or you worry that it's an inappropriate desire, or you just don't know what's going on. And so desires that you've held for a while that don't seem to be moving, for most of you, are irritating or depressing. It's quite a range. While those of you who have found knowledge in the laws of the universe and are effectively utilizing your own guidance system, so you've learned to work the bugs out of your resistance and make your desires pure or non-resisted. In other words, knowing it and expecting it without doubt. That's what we're talking about. Your desires feel good to you. In fact, they breathe life into you. And that is the desire you came to experience. In fact, that's the experience you were looking for when you came. You didn't come as a creator because there are things that need to be created. You came as a creator because it is exhilarating to create. And that's such a big distinction, if you can get that distinction clear. So often what hinders you and keeps that from being clear is that sometimes you want to create an avenue for money to flow to you. So the money is what you're after, and your creation is just the means to the money. And so you're not all excited about the means, you're just excited about the money. And that gets you thinking in a screwy way about creation in general, because that gets you thinking that what you're creating is what really matters. I need to create a better house, or a better job, or a better life for my family, or I need to create something that is more stable. I need to create for my retirement. And so when you're looking toward an end and you aren't anywhere near that end, then it's not fun to create. And what we want this gathering to do for you today, we want you to get turned on to the idea of the creation process itself. Let us say that in a better way. We want you to get turned on to the thrill of the process of creating. That's what you came to experience. You can get the idea of that when you talk to an artist who has painted an endless supply. Jerry and Esther have a friend in Albuquerque who is one of the world's premier artists. She is known around the world, and her art is recognized in competition after competition. Tempera painting, unbelievably beautiful. And she has been painting for so many years, and her paintings are very expensive. And so there are paintings of hers in galleries in many, 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 many cities. And yet she continues to paint. Not because the gallery needs another painting, and not because she needs another painting to sell. She continues to paint because the process of painting is so delicious, you see. And so that's what we wish for you. We want you to put creating in the realm of something really fun to do, something you really like to do. But you can't do that until you understand the process. You can't have fun at creating until you work the bugs out of your own resistance. Because when you want something that you don't believe, it's not fun. And you can't turn your wanting off. That's the worst part of it. Our physical friends tell us, wish I didn't want that. Felt a lot better before I wanted that. I'm so discouraged now that I want it and can't have it. And we want to say to you, there's nothing that you want that you can't have, and there's nothing that you want that isn't already lined up for you in a vibrational reality. We're calling that vibrational reality. Formerly we called it your vibrational escrow. We're calling this your vortex of creation because it is a spinning vortex of attraction. Law of attraction sees to that. When you know what you don't want, whether you put words to it or not, you send off a rocket of desire that is received by the larger part of you, by that which you call source. And that larger part of you holds this newly expanded creation of yours in a vibrational escrow, in this vortex of creation, eternally, until you catch up with it. Until you catch up with it and receive the fulfillment of it. Most people don't really catch up with everything that's there until they croak. In other words, because most people don't release their resistance until they breathe their last breath. Most of you, as long as you're still in this body, have stuff you're complaining and worrying about. Every subject is two subjects, what is wanted and lack of it. And it is not inappropriate for you to consider both sides of that equation because, in fact, the contrast is what allows you to focus forward. Contrast is essential to everything. Imagine no contrast in your visual experience. Ever seen a snowstorm or a picture of one? What is that? Oh, that's me back there in the background. I can't see you. All I can see is white. You're hoping for a little black nose on something somewhere in the picture, just to know that it's not a mistake. Contrast is necessary for you to focus visually. And the best photographers have figured that out, haven't they? Contrast is necessary in music for you to hear anything that is meaningful. If it was all one note, you'd tire of it soon. The contrast and the variety of the contrast is what makes it meaningful. So contrast is necessary for focusing, and focusing is necessary for creation. And everything you see is a focused creation. Everything that you hear is a focused creation. So when we talk about focusing, we're talking about creating. When we're talking about thinking, we're talking about focusing. When we're talking about believing, we're talking about focusing. When we're talking about remembering, we're talking about focusing upon an event. When we're talking about imagining, we're talking about focusing. When we're talking about observing, as you selectively sift through your now, we're talking about focusing upon those things that you wish, hear this, that you wish to activate within you. That's what a creator does. A creator focuses and activates a vibration, and then law of attraction takes it from there. So when you sloppily focus using screwy criteria, why are you looking at that? Because it's there. Why are you watching this on television? Because it's on. Why are you listening to this conversation? Because this person is my friend and that's what they're saying. Why are you focused upon that? Because it's true. And we say, those are really odd criterias for the reason that you're focusing, because when you focus, you activate a vibration within you, and when you activate a vibration within you, law of attraction responds to it. And when you activate a vibration within you that contradicts who you really are and what you really want, then you introduce discord into your experience. Discord that will prevent you from what you want, but even more than that, discord that will keep you from feeling good, because it's discord that keeps you from being who you are. Do you understand that? Do you know that you are vibrational beings more than you are anything else? You are so good at interpreting vibration that you see this time-space reality around you, and it has convinced you in your interpretation of it that this is the real world, this world that I can see and hear and taste and smell and touch. This is the real world. And we want you to know that while you are interpreting with all of those senses, that you are interpreting on many vibrational levels of your being. Vibrations abound all around you, and you are the attractor of the vibrations that abound. Now, many argue with that. They say, no, Abraham, I walk into a room and what's there is what I get. And we say, well, have you ever been an eyewitness to something that someone else was an eyewitness to and discovered when you read the reports that you saw very different things, even though you thought you were looking at the same thing? Because who you are and what you believe while you are witnessing it completely colors the way you interpret whatever it is that you see. And if that's true with what you see and hear, have you ever been with a dog who perks up and you say, stop it? But the dog is responding to something vivid that it hears or smells. The other day, Jerry and Esther were in a campground, and a man walked by with a beautiful dog. And as they walked by, the dog turned around and looked in the direction of Esther. Could not seem to take its eyes off of Esther. And Esther was so flattered. Esther thought, oh, that dog sees energy. And that dog who's tuned in, tapped in, turned on, knows the beauty of my vibrational being. And then Esther got a whiff of what the dog had smelled before her. Someone was emptying their sewer down the way, and the dog smelled it 15 seconds before Esther did. Dogs smell things you can't smell. Dogs smell things you don't want to smell. They interpret differently than you do. Same environment, different depths of interpretation. There are people who can hear things that you can't hear. There are animals that can hear things that you can't hear. You are all, whether you are beast or human or molecule, you are all vibrating beings and sensual, sensitive beings. But you have levels of interpretation that go far beyond your physical senses. And what they are vibrational interpretations. You get impulses to move or impulses to consider. You get impulses that you're picking up from all around you. But this is always true. You never receive an impulse or an experience that is a departure from your vibrational countenance. In other words, you train yourself by living in your environment into your habits of vibrations. And your habits of vibrations are what your beliefs and expectations really are. So, without meaning to, most humans have allowed their environment to train them into patterns of expectation that serve you in many cases and hinder you in others. And this gathering is about learning to utilize your guidance system in order to understand what you're receiving and whether it is beneficial to who you are, who you have become, or whether it is detrimental. Whether focusing upon it causes you to allow the creation, or whether focusing upon it allows you to hinder the creation. It's fun to realize that you are vibrational beings. But before being a vibrational being in your physical body can be very meaningful to you, you have to understand that this physical part that you know as you, that all of your friends have identified through your countenance and your personality, is but a very small part of who you really are. Because while you are in this physical body, there is a larger part of you that is source energy, vibration, non-physical. And that part of you, man has been calling it soul. Sometimes man calls it source or God. But that non-physical part of you is by far and away the larger, dominant part of you. And that part of you knows your well-being. That part of you has been accumulating since the beginning of your existence, and that's so far back we couldn't even begin to define that for you. Since the beginning of your existence, that part of you has been garnering and gathering and focusing upon the very best that your life experience has been able to hone out. In other words, this source energy is a vibrational vortex of well-being that defies physical human description. We just can't give it words, but sometimes your physical senses feel it. and you recognize it as love or appreciation or joy. Those moments of exhilaration are the best interpretation that you ever are able to utilize in order to define this vortex of well-being that really explains who you are.